Hey, welcome back to the Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Before we jump into today's topic, I just want to take a minute to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This episode is sponsored by Cain Law. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. Cain Law is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. Do you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals? Check out tonalaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you. I am joined today by Rilee Harrison. Rilee has a nickname online that I love. I actually refer to him by it. He calls himself Bard and Bearded on X, which was formerly Twitter. And that's how I actually found Rilee. And I thought he had a super fascinating story. He's out of Oklahoma. He's a personal injury lawyer. Rilee, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you because I got a later start to social. And believe it or not, I don't think I ever told you this, but you were one of the inspirations behind my social media involvement because I started following legal type influencers online, and you were one of the ones that stuck out on X, right? Where you have a very snarky personality, you crack a lot of jokes. You're also doing it on LinkedIn now, and you got a lot of traction. I mean, you have a ton of followers on X, I believe it is. I don't know how many you have in social altogether, but I found what you were doing really interesting. Like, you're the new generation of lawyer marketing. And so I wanted to have you on the show because I thought it was fascinating what you're doing, separate from the owner of your firm, who I interviewed not too long ago, Monty of Cain Law, Monty Cain. And Monty's doing some really cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think the comment I just made to you was, you know, you guys are out in Oklahoma, and all these people in major cities could learn so much from both that episode and from what you're doing in marketing, that I just thought it was a cool thing to have you both on separate podcasts.
Tommy, I'll tell you, one of my favorite jokes whenever I go to like national conferences, if I'm sitting at a table, I've never met anyone, I'll tell them, I'll say, man, this is so cool being out here in, California, New York, wherever I'm at. I was like, it just blew my mind though. I thought Starbucks was just an Oklahoma thing, but y'all have it here too. I kid you not. This lady, she looks at me and she goes, where in Oklahoma are you from? And I said, Oklahoma City. And she goes, oh my God, you had me.
Right. It's super funny too, because you guys are making big moves on the PI side with your law firm, but also like you've got your own brand, which I loved, right? So I think I had a conversation last night with somebody who we were talking about some business things we could do together. And the guy was like, look, I really don't want to market. And I was like, well, whether you're with me or whether you're out on your own, if you're truly of that mindset, you're kind of screwed anyway, right? Like, you cannot, in the profession we're in right now, especially in personal injury, you don't have the luxury of not marketing yourself, both as a personal brand and within the entity that you are. Right? Because look, let's face it, rainmakers still to this day are a major piece of the success of a law firm, right? If you can make it rain, you can pretty much call the shots as long as the delivery of the services equals what you're selling.
Yeah.
So let's go down the rabbit hole. How old are you, first of all?
I am 34.
And you got your whole life ahead of you, man. I'm jealous. So talk to me a little bit. You've been in practice 7 years now?
Yeah, I'll be 7 in April 2019.
What was the impetus behind, one, becoming a lawyer, and then two, doing it the way you're doing it? Let's break that down. Tell people how you're doing it, what you're doing, and the why behind everything.
I'll just I can give a few minutes. I'll do my monologue, I guess, I have on this. So I grew up in a really small town. I graduated with like 100-ish people. Both my parents were from there. And so I had the opportunity, I actually had a full ride scholarship to undergrad. I got a scholarship that was a full ride anywhere, I guess, in the country. And I kind of made myself a promise. I was like, I'm going to be either the first doctor or lawyer in my family. That's all I knew as like an 18-year-old was like, that's how I make it, right? Now I'm like, man, I wish I would have started an app. But anyways.
Right. Technology, right?
Back then, though, that was back in the 2008, 2009, that was more of the thing, though. So anyways, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So go to college, take pre-med and pre-law courses, realize I like pre-law a lot, start going that focused route. And then I also got a finance minor as well. So I was like, you know what? I like the business side of things. I like the a business. I want to do that. So ended up getting into the University of Arkansas. And so I moved to Arkansas, went to live in Northwest Arkansas. They have a great business law program. Walmart, J.B. Hunt, Tyson, all headquartered within 15 minutes of the university. And so they're a major, really good school. So anyways, I was president of the Business Law Society there. And believe it or not, my second year, two major things happened in my life. One, I got in a car wreck and I got hit by a drunk driver who happened to be the CFO and co-founder of the largest construction company in Arkansas in a company truck. Oh. Believe it or not, I had a horrible experience. The chiropractor I went to was mad when he learned it was a car wreck. The attorneys didn't realize the full extent of it. I still have issues to this day. And I remember leaving that experience and just being like, man, this could be done better. At the same time, we had our trial course, and there was 6 trials that happened, and there was 5 not guilty verdicts, and my partner and I got the only guilty verdict. And the judge pulled me aside at the end of it and said, hey, y'all were the only ones that got it. Clearly something went right. He goes, you're phenomenal. He goes, whenever you talk, people believe you and they trust you, and you either have that or you don't. He goes, and he was actually in Arkansas. And I said, I appreciate that. He said, I've checked up on you. I know you're the business law guy, but he said, son, you need to be in a courtroom. And I remember going back and talking to my girlfriend, then wife now, and being like, hey, this may not be as lucrative early on as going to the big law thing like I was kind of going to do, but I was like, I think this is what I need to do. And she was like, as long as we move back to Oklahoma City, I don't care what you do. And I said, all right, well, we'll move back to Oklahoma City. So I moved back to Oklahoma City, take the bar exam, fell on my first try. Honestly, and we'll talk about that with my social media about, I promised that I would be authentic and true and tell the truth and stuff. And I've actually coached people that didn't pass the bar the first time because of that. But anyways, we'll talk about that later. But that changed everything for me. Everything had always been easy. I'd always relied on personality, just being able to have friends, be involved with stuff. I developed a work ethic for the first time in my life. I was regimented. I never wanted to feel that way again. If I felt failure, it wasn't going to be because I knew that I didn't try hard enough. And so that changed everything for me. I passed the bar on the next try, worked for a small firm. After a year, that firm was like, I just wasn't really loving it. I actually didn't know if I still wanted to be a lawyer. I ended up finding a PI firm that was a pretty large firm, went there, ended up loving it. About 6 months in though, and this is where kind of the everything starts on what you want to hear. So about 6 months in, one of my buddies who was in a car wreck, he posts on Facebook a picture of his car. And it looks like, if someone's in the backseat, they're dead. And I'm like, I text him, I go, Jake, are you okay? And he's like, yeah. He goes, he said, I'm sore. And I go, you're going to be sore tomorrow. That's horrible. And he texts me, he goes, you're right, I am. And I said, well, my firm can help you if you want to. So we do that. And I'm actually doing workers' comp all the time. I'm not even doing car wrecks yet. And so 3-4 months goes by. I get a call from the senior paralegal, and she says, hey, Jake's case settled. And by the way, your referral fee portion is $13,000. And I said, $13,000? I said, I don't want to be a lawyer. I said, I want to bring cases in. That sounds way better. So if you're telling me if I can generate business, this is awesome. So I started thinking about it at that time frame. I was like, what can I do to generate business, like with the way that like my life has been, right? And so everything I'd ever done, I've been super involved in. I already had like 4,000 friends on Facebook just from being the president of this, the this, or that, on leadership scholarships, all the stuff. And so I was like, I'm going to start posting like once a month on Facebook, just so my friends and family know what I'm doing, right? That started gaining some traction. I also joined like the local Oklahoma Association for Justice. I ended up getting partnered with a guy who was going to be the president the next year. I started planning all the events for the organization. Next thing I know, I'm the Young Lawyer of the Year in that organization. And then I'm on executive board at like 31, 32 years old for the whole organization. And so I start doing what I always did to be successful, but I paired that with now a newfound work ethic drive that I had before. And those have paired really cool for me. But essentially the social media aspect is that I was like, I'm starting to get these cases. I'm starting to get these things from networking, right? And it's because I've made friends and people believe me and they trust me. And I'm like, how can I do that on a national scale, like with other lawyers? And I was like, maybe, so my Facebook is people I know, well, my Twitter, my LinkedIn, my stuff like that, that's people I don't know as much. I said, what about if I just start following other lawyers? Worst case scenario, I make friends, right? And I get to know people, and it's awesome that way. The best case scenario is I end up getting, sorry, someone opened my door. Best case scenario is I end up getting cases from it. And I was like, that could be a thing. That could be what happens. And so started posting, stuff started going viral for me, kind of started blowing up. I made a promise that I was always be myself, always be authentic to myself. And yeah, it's really paid off. I think I've generated 250 to 300 of my own originations.
Wow.
Spending no money in the last 6-7 years. Really 5 to 6 is the last PI cases. And then it led to Monty, right? So when I started with him, it was 4.5 years ago, and I had told him, I said, I've had a little bit of success on bringing in my own business, but I hope it continues. I can't ever promise anything. And it did. And he was like, well, if you're doing this for yourself, why don't you learn the paid side of things with me? And so over the last few years, we've developed that. We've really built out our marketing and our stuff here at Cain Law. And I run that with Monty. I call Anthony his right-hand guy. He's been with him 10 years, and he's become one of my best friends. He's actually the one who got me the job a while back, and then I'm kind of left hand. So I'm the marketing, the intake, the networking piece of things is kind of what I help Monty with. So, but anyways, that's my story. That's how I've gotten to where I am, just kind of a combination of using old school, I think, networking techniques, but then using digital and social media.
Absolutely. And so I kind of took that playbook and ran with it. I got a later start on the digital side in terms of social, but I did the same exact playbook. I could walk into any room and talk to anybody, right? And everybody, I have a wide network of people that have always referred me cases, and I'm like, how do I do it national? Same exact thing. And it's the same thing that you're now doing, right? But I did it in reverse. I did a 3-pronged plan. I started this because I love talking to new people that interest me and I find interesting that they're, what they're doing. I coupled that with LinkedIn because I love to write, and I always joke around that I have a face for radio, so I wasn't going to be the Instagram guy necessarily. And then I coupled it with conferences, which you and I touched on in a private conversation not too long ago as well. And so I got a later start, but I got to tell you, the results you're talking about, that's no small feat. 250 cases from digital organic social media over, what'd you say, 6 years?
Yeah, about 6 years.
You're talking about 40 cases a year. That's not nothing, right? And you're amplifying it now with paid. That's the way. That's the playbook if anybody's listening close to what you said. And we should unpack a couple of things.
Just to clarify, I'm not, so those are just my own personal organizations. Those aren't the firms. I'm just learning how to be paid for the firm. So those are just strictly just from either networking locally or networking via social media stuff. That's what all of those are. Those are
right. But you also hit on some key stuff that I think people have to understand. And so I want to kind of unpack it. Some of the best personal injury lawyers I know have some kind of chip on their shoulder. They have some kind of experience that they said, I didn't love the way this made me feel, or I'm doing this because of what I grew up with, right? So I just give you a couple of instances. John Morgan got into personal injury because of his brother being injured at Disney World. Jen Gore was in a bad car accident, went to become a personal injury lawyer, right? And she's a fantastic lawyer. And so what you're unpacking, again, I went into it because I was bullied as a kid, so I learned how to fight physically. Then I learned how to fight, metaphorically for myself and for others. And so I often tell people, and I have this conversation a lot. People call me up, they're like, I want to get into personal injury. My first question is why? And if they're talking about the money, I can almost tell you almost every time I say, look, you should do something else. Personally, if you're going into it purely because of the money, you're going to treat clients like a product versus what they really are, which is people that need help, right? So that authenticity you're talking about is the key to great marketing, right, overall in general. And the last thing you said that I thought was brilliant was too many people tell themselves stories. Oh, I'm a great networker, but I'm not doing digital. Or, I like putting it out on Instagram, but I'm not going to in-person things.
And to me, when you can marry them up and do the same thing that you do digitally, adapted for what you do personally, that's the magic sauce. If you show up as the same authentic person, you've talked to me now a couple of times, the same voice you see on LinkedIn, you know I'm doing that writing, right? Like, you know, and I know like from just following you both on LinkedIn and X that you're authentically funny. You've got a very sharp wit about you. So like, I like your content, but it also keeps you top of mind that as a lawyer, if I come across an Oklahoma case, I know where I'm sending it. Right? Like before I met the owner, Monty, or you personally, I already knew, right? Because I had access to you. So, you know, you unpacked a lot of stuff.
Tommy, I think that's interesting. One of the things that you said was about the money aspect thing. One of the hardest things is being a young person who does generate business like that is keeping the right values on it, right? I made a promise to myself when I started doing it, you know, because a lot of it was friends and family at first, right? And I made a promise to myself. I said, I will never look at what my percentage is until the end. Like it has got to be for the client, their best interest. And I made a promise of that, and I've had that conversation with lawyers in our firm before, like, hey, if they ever, like, before a case resolves, start talking about what they're going to get, I'm like, hey, absolutely not. That's not who we are. That's not what we do. Our core value number one at Cain Law is it's all about the client. And that's, I think, why Monty and I have grown so close and work so well together, is that that's both of our core values. It means a lot to both of us.
Yeah, look, I tell people that all the time. Like, do not, well, one, there's a couple of rules that it's pretty rampant in personal injury firms, but I heard Bill Biggs talking about it from stage. I don't know if you know who Bill Biggs is, but he's like the guru of culture, right? He's the COO. He's one of the reasons I have a C-suite executive in my office now, because I was like, those are the people that move the needle for guys like me that like, I'm a true visionary. I'm not organized. I'm not systems oriented, but I knew I needed it to be able to scale. But he said it's rampant where he will walk into a law firm and people bad-mouthing the clients, right? And that's where they're just putting the finances ahead of the person. It's a recipe for disaster. And you know, you were a client. You understand that, right? And I liken it to like when I go to the doctor. You know when you're just being pushed through the system versus somebody who like wants to see you genuinely get better.
I'm going to be in such a good spot if I just do what's right for the client every single time.
100%.
Do what's right for them. Don't worry about yourself. I'll be fine.
And listen, somebody I know sits on a board. We were having lunch together today, and she said something like, right away, this person I knew wasn't a leader. They voiced something at a meeting that was all about them. And she got upset. She said, listen, no offense, but what do your feelings have to do with what's best for this organization or the people that are on the client side of this organization? It wasn't relative to my company, but I was like, she would have never said that 15 years ago before she started working here, but it really rubbed off in a different way. Like, I may never be as big as some of the big players out there, but I look at it like I can change certain lives. I can impact certain lives, whether it's my client or my team. And that's all I care about, right? Like if I can change their lives and still show up for my family, I'm married, I have a 16-year-old, I've done a good job. I've done the best I could and I've maximized the best I could. You don't have to be the biggest, but you certainly can be the best to a certain group of people, right? Yeah. I love what you said because I repeat that mantra all the time. There's easier ways to make money. I've made money in a lot easier ways. Like, again, I use my financial acumen on the money I do make to invest it and whatnot. But yeah, if you're in it purely for the money, look somewhere else, right? Because people deserve better. They just deserve better. Are you on all social media at this point, or are there specific channels that you're focused on in terms of the organic stuff you're doing?
Yes, mainly Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Instagram is more personal for me. The one things I do get though from Instagram is that a lot of my tweets or X's, whatever they're called now, I have no idea. They get posted on those lawyer sites all the time on Instagram.
That's awesome.
So and they always share me. So I mean, I think between like the 4 platforms, I probably have probably somewhere in like 40 to 45,000 followers, something like that.
And that's all you need. That's all you need.
Well, I've actually slowed down a lot just because of the roles I've taken on at the firm. I feel like the last year I've really focused more on the firm's stuff than I have my personal branding and stuff. But I'm still around. I'm still doing it. I'm still posting. I'm still showing up anytime someone wants me at something, and it's kind of the same thing, right? It's that same mindset on social media and also on real life, but it's just being consistent. So I've started to get back to being consistent, post a day or so on Twitter. I never really got involved in LinkedIn. Over the last 6 months, I've started getting a lot more involved on LinkedIn. I do want to get more involved in LinkedIn. I really like that community. I really like what's going on. I think I'm also a writing guy. I'm not a face for radio, so I'm going to be doing that. So probably maybe my ones for other lawyers, which is more of business to business, is going to be LinkedIn and Twitter now at this point. And then Facebook is more for friends, family, and then I add people on it as well. So, but that's really what it's more for.
Awesome. I mean, look, you're laying out a playbook that if somebody doesn't know where to get started. I became a huge advocate because once I saw what I could do on LinkedIn and I started getting case referrals off of LinkedIn, I was like, oh, this is kind of magic, man. And it is, you do have to know your audience. On LinkedIn, you got to deliver business value or trial value, skill value consistently, right? Because people show up and, they want real value. They want that authentic value proposition. On X, I know it's kind of entertaining. You can be a little more wilder because that's how I actually found you. And I started following you. I'm like, this guy's hilarious, man. I love this stuff. So again, do you feel like you brought up an interesting point because you scale it to a certain point and you're doing it yourself, right? You brought up an interesting point that finding that balance is tricky as you scale this practice. I mean, you've got 14 lawyers working there right now, right? I think it was 14.
Yeah, with everybody, yeah. So
plus you're managing the front end, the claims, the intake, all of that stuff on these files. So that's not nothing. You're managing a full workload and still trying to show up for the market.
Yeah, I oversee the intake and the marketing, money, and then I have my own caseload as well. Then doing this. But I think something interesting what you said is that it is about consistency, it's about time blocking, but knowing your audience is really what you were getting at. I think I want to just hammer on that. Whenever I first started, I would try to post X amount of times, and I figured out what the best time of day to post was, stuff like that. And then I knew I had a different audience in everything I was posting on, right? Facebook was a different audience than Twitter. Twitter was a different one than LinkedIn. I will say I'm trying to break the mold a little bit on that. I'm not a boring guy. I'm not just a work all the time guy. I'm a fun guy too. And so I've started sprinkling that into LinkedIn because I want people to know my personality. I want people to know what my hobbies are. I want people to know that, I love my daughter with my whole heart. I want them to know that stuff about me, right? But you're right. Knowing your audience is extremely, extremely important.
Yeah, and just knowing also where you're comfortable. I don't post anything about my daughter for whatever reason. I've always been averse to it, but that's my thing, right? I do talk about how she's my why, my wife is my why, and you just got to know where you're comfortable, where your sweet spot is. You know what I mean?
Quick break to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This episode is supported by Cain Law, a modern law firm built on integrity and innovation. Learn how they're changing the game at tonolaw.com. Attorney referrals accepted from across the country. You'll see what it's like when you send us a case. You'll have some happy clients.
So talk to me about also, because you're pretty involved, you were mentioning with Facebook that you were involved with a lot of different local community things. So you're also doing community outreach, that type of stuff?
Yeah, so me personally, I'm on the executive board for the Oklahoma Association for Justice, which is our plaintiff lawyer association, and I do all the events. I'm the events guy. I work with all the sponsors. I work on getting new sponsors to come in and support our organization. Stuff like that is what I've just kind of naturally gravitated towards. So I do that personally. And then the firm, we have just exploded over the last year. Molly and I had a conversation about it on wanting to be more involved in the community. So we did our first backpack drive last year, which was awesome. We actually, you can maybe see it behind me. This corner of my office, there's a school right there. And so we actually have partnered with them big time. And we did backpacks, and then we did coats drive for the students.
Nice.
I think it was a high percentage qualify for like reduced lunches and stuff like that. So we wanted to get back to the community. It was really cool. We built a relationship with the principal, and actually a week ago, 2 weeks ago, they have a digital sign, and they put on there, "Thank you, Cain Law, for keeping our kids warm with coats this year," on their digital sign. Nice. I got emotional. Like, I was like, this is what it's all about, right? Like, being a guy that grew up in small town, stuff like that. I was like, this is like, for me, my why behind the success is that I can take care of people I care about, right? And as an organization, Monty and his vision for it too, that like with the success we've had, the fact that that means we can give back to other people in our community that have, helped our business grow. It's just awesome. So we're doing that. We're going to have our first ever Cain Cares community event. It was originally going to be just a deal for like past clients, and we decided to open it up. So we're going to have, we're giving away bike helmets. We're going to do raffles for bikes, and then we're going to have firefighters come install raffles that we give away for car seats. And then, so anyways, the community stuff's huge. We go volunteer. Personally, I try to be involved in some boards. I always try to have at least one that I'm doing where I'm meeting people in the community, doing things that I need to do for my personal branding as well and stuff too. But I think that's just important. I mean, there's just something to be said for the more people you know, and the more people that like you're willing to like connect with and actually talk to. All it's going to do, as long as you're not a dick, it's just going to be good for you, right? As long as you treat people right, and you're not an asshole. Sorry, I'm allowed to cuss on this.
You're fine though, because it's really about authenticity too. I think it goes back to, I know plenty of people. I saw it very early on as I started doing EOS, right? We fleshed out our core values, but they were truly our core values because they were my core values, right? So they refined over the years, and now they're very simple: excellence, kind candor, people first. Right? People first. It's about my team's family and my team, and then they take care of the clients. That's the priority, right? What I want between 8 and 5, what my emotions are, what my feelings are, is irrelevant to what's best for clients who are showing up here hurt and need our help. And we're basically living in alignment, right? Your core values of client first, or taking care of the community, is people first, but it's not just a slogan on a wall. Like, there was a guy back in the day, one of my competitors, who literally wanted to copy my core values and the ads that we were running. And I'm like, hey man, don't you have a reputation for throwing laptops across the office and you're talking about people first? Like, you can't fake your core values or your alignment. And I think that's what people do get, whether they meet you in person or online. Like, I forget how we actually connected. I was like, hey man, you want to come on my podcast? I forget if it was on LinkedIn or you reached out to me about something. And again, the authenticity is you're the same person in person, in community events, online. And that's what people really want, especially nowadays more than ever, right? So, and sometimes, to me, I don't know if you've found this, so I would ask you the question. When you have core values, inevitably those core values will be tested. And what you do in those moments of those tests, that defines are they a true core value or are they aspirational. You have any examples for anybody of, you had to make a tough call in a case because you have this people over profits and client first core value where there was a decision you made that, there's always temptation to bend the rules if it suits you. Give an example of one of those times where your core values were tested and how it played out.
Yeah, so I originated a case a year and a half ago, and someone who I know one of their kids pretty well. And it was a bad wreck, bad stuff, surgery was needed, all that. But the way the guy did work and stuff, it was very hard to prove his lost wages, right? I knew he was going to have lost wages, but it was hard to prove it. So what I did was at the end of it, I looked at his lost wages, and I had a conversation with the firm. I was like, look, we wouldn't be able to prove this, right? But I want to do something extra for him, right? Because I know that it was real for him. I know what they went through. I know that those are lost wages, even if I couldn't show them to a jury for various reasons. I know they were there. And so I actually, as a 30, I think I was 32 at the time, I gave away a large chunk of what I was going to make off that case, significant money. Because, again, with that thought process of I do what's right, every single time for the client, I'm going to be just fine. And, I'll tell you this, it doesn't always have to happen this way or this fast, but I've already gotten 2 referrals from him that he's referred friends to me. One of them resolved for hefty policy limits, and the other one's going to be one of the larger origination cases I've ever brought in when it's all said and done.
Right.
So I think that, it got brought up actually at our attorney meeting, say, like, that's one of those core values, that's why we have to live it as well. I think that the other thing too, that's really important for like younger lawyers, right? Which it's so weird because I'm definitely a younger lawyer.
Right.
I'm not with it, I feel like sometimes in my position it's not, but it's like I'm still categorized, I guess, in that group at this point. But when you know that you're at the right place, whether that be you start your own organization or you're with an organization that, hey, this is who I'm riding or dying with, you know what I mean? It's someone who your core values align with, right?
Yes.
What's been so cool about this experience with like Monty is like whenever we start writing down like what his core values are, what the firm's core values are, they literally are mine too. And that's why it's been such an easy transition to buy in and be like, I'll die for your money if you need me to. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm your guy.
But I got to tell you, man, listen, for the last couple of years, I will pick a word that is the theme of the year, right? And for the longest time, repeatedly, it was alignment, right? Are we all aligned with the vision, the mission, the purpose? Are we aligned with our clients? Are our vendors aligned with us and our core values, right? And what you start to see is that magically, your organization transforms itself if you stick to your core values. You're surrounded only with people that align. And that's when the magic really starts to happen, right? And that doesn't mean it's linear or easy. It's a messy, beautiful mess of a project, but sticking to your core values and not letting anything change them changes the way your organization evolves. Change the way you evolve as a person too. I have seen close family members who've worked in the organization evolve in alignment with the core values, simple core values. How we do anything is how we do everything. So excellence matters in the smallest stuff. People first, right? Like you said, if you care first, if you care about your clients, you create raving fans without trying to create raving fans, right? And putting kind candor in there for me was a mission that came from Gary Vee. I don't know if you read his book, 12 and a half.
I haven't read the book, but I follow him.
Fantastic. So that chapter changed my business because as the owner of a business, I love people. Right? But you got to have hard conversations and you got to make hard decisions sometimes that people don't want to do. And I see organizations suffer for that. So by giving myself permission to say every day, you're always going to know where you stand and I'm going to be kind about it, right? Because it doesn't mean you're a bad person. Maybe my core values don't align with you. Maybe they don't resonate, right? So, but I'm never going to shy away from that tough conversation because it's not best for anybody, including the other person, right? So, and again, if you end up living those core values, everything becomes easy. They're like, Tom will tell me when I'm doing great, and I'm not going to show up to work and think I'm doing great, and then I have to worry about my job for another reason. You know what I mean? And it's just this living the core values the way you do, the way Monty does. That's the seminal piece that so many people get wrong when they hang a shingle or why they choose their chosen field of endeavor. And people nowadays know it. They know if you're transactional, man. They know if you're selling them something. You have to be really, really slick to fly under the radar and hide that piece, right? If you're transactional.
Let's full circle it too, right? So this whole staying true to your core values and who you are and stuff. If you're brave enough to put yourself out of line, you damn sure better whenever those people meet you in person, be that same guy.
Yeah.
Lady. Otherwise, it's going to get back quick in the community, and it's just not going to be good for you. I'll give you an example. Obviously, I'm never going to say names, but there was a firm that does, whenever I was at my old firm, I got my first trucking case in. And I was like, this is going to be so cool. I want to be a truck lawyer. Like, this is awesome. Now I am one, and I think I'm good at it. But back then, I was not. So I had listened to a podcast, and a guy had been interviewed. He's a very good trucking lawyer. Him and partner And he said, if anyone ever had questions, call him. So I emailed the guy. I said, hey, got my first trucking case in ever. Could you give me some pointers? He spent like an hour with me on a Zoom. This was like 5 years ago, five and a half years ago. And I said, man, this was so awesome. It helped me out a ton. This was great. Well, the partner that this person has, they're pretty well known like in the space, and they go to the conferences, do the stuff. So I'm here with my new firm about 2.5 years later or so, and I see the partner of this person at a deal. I go up to him and I'm like, hey, I just want to tell you, like, I had the best talk with your partner like 3 years ago whenever I was literally a year into practice, had no idea what I was doing. And it changed everything for me on the case. It helped me out exponentially, just an hour call, but that's really cool that y'all do that. The guy looks at me in the eye and says, yeah, well, where was our referral fee? And turns around and walks off.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just like, oh my Lord, right? Like this is someone that like, I see their social media stuff. I see what they do. I see how they're the president of this, of that. And like, I like idolize, right? I was like, that's who I want to be someday. And that just crushed me. Like, I was like, that is just insane. And that was one of those reaffirming times that I was like, I'm never going to not be me.
But think about how short-sighted that is too, because in that one interaction, he lost more potential referrals or co-counsel opportunities than he would even, and he probably would not think about it, because anybody that would say that and mean it, they don't care. They're not aware enough to say, man, was that a ridiculous thing to say to a young lawyer who's thanking me for my partner's graciousness.
And then you don't know that, well, okay, like now I've actually got a way larger following, right? Like, and if I was to say those names and stuff, that wouldn't be a good look, Not that I'm but it's just like, you never know who you're going to interact with. That's growing up like I did, where I did and stuff. Like, you treat everybody the same, and you treat the janitor just like you would the CEO.
I say it all the time. One of my so it's funny that you say that. I have a guy who became.
You're from Oklahoma, we're from New York.
That's it. So I'll tell you what. So I've always had the same desk. It's a big, huge desk, and in my old office, I had a dry cleaner stop in one time. He's like, "Oh, I'm part of this group. I'm in the area. I have a mobile route." He was an Italian guy. I'm an Italian guy. I said, hey, sit down. Let's have a cup of coffee. Start talking. His name was Mike. Mike and I became really good friends. He said, you're the first lawyer. I go to a lot of law offices. No one's ever talked to me or offered me a cup of coffee. I was like, you're kidding me. Because I love talking to this guy. So, because you mentioned the janitor, right? People are so short-sighted. Mike owns multiple businesses, tens of millions of dollars in real estate. Mike hooked me up with somebody who became a key partner in a different business for me. Mike wants for nothing, sold that dry cleaning route. We're still fast friends to this day. Oh, and Mike referred me to somebody who sent me 20 cases in the span of 18 months. Mm-hmm. Because I talked to him. Because I showed him some kindness and offered him a cup of coffee. Right? Like, that's crazy to me that somebody doesn't know you, that they think they can talk to you that way. And all of a sudden you're like, I'll never call this guy for anything ever.
Well, I think what's so cool about that is that you weren't doing that expecting anything. You were just doing that because that's who you are and you're being yourself, which is so important about the whole thing, right? Like I don't know, it's just cool. It's good things happen to good people. I'm a big believer. I like to quote, like, luck is just when opportunity meets preparation, right? Like, you do the right thing over and over, things are going to work out. I mean, and working out's different. Working out means something different to every single person. Right. But the more luck and the more preparation, the more preparation, the more opportunity. I mean, luck.
Yeah. And listen, the reality of it is that it's called personal injury. It involves people. So if you don't like people and you're just in it for the buck, again, we just go full circle back to what you're talking about. Those lawyers and law firms, they're going to be, you probably see it now. There's a lot of attrition, a lot of consolidation. You've got market forces, you've got tort reform, you've got hedge fund money, you've got the 800-pound gorillas becoming bigger. And so competition is stiff. Who do people want to go to? They want to go to somebody that's authentic, that's nice. They just want somebody they can relate to, right? That cares beyond the check that's going to come their way. So, look, I think that you brought it full circle. And in a lot of ways, like you said, luck and opportunity and preparation are all tied together. You're at a place now, I can tell, like when you were on with Monty in that last, when you got him set up or whatever, you guys gel so well, right? Not everybody's in those places. Not everybody would appreciate a Monty, or you might have a Monty who doesn't appreciate a Rilee. The fact that you guys get it, you're aligned, that's when like I said, that's when the magic happens, right? The core values resonate with you. That's who you are. And you look at Monty as this mentor that he really does care. He cares about you. He cares about your success. Your family is important to him. So I think that a lot of that all ties in. What we're calling marketing, you're not selling something that's not true. You're just letting people know who you are. You're showing up authentically, right?
Well, it's, whenever I'm doing my spiel, like whenever I'm talking to someone, I tell them, I'm like, here's the deal. The way our firm operates is if your case is worth $5 or your case is worth $5 million, you deserve every dang penny. And so we're set up where we have attorneys that are graded on making sure that they get all that $5 for you. That's who we are. Like we litigate. We go get the max value. That's what we do. And there's the other side. It is a competition. Their goal is to minimize that. If it's worth $5, they want to pay you 5 cents. And
right.
So I've lived it. I've been in it, right? Like I was a law student. I had some idea and I still had no idea. That case that I don't know if I signed a confidentiality or whatever years ago, but I'll just say this, hypothetically, if a case with a drunk driver like that settles for under $20K, that's not a good deal for anybody involved.
Right. And you've been on the wrong end of that, and that's where people can change things on the go forward for other people. And you taking that opportunity is why you're so successful at the age you're at. So, let's shift gears for a second, because I mentioned private equity as one of these things, and I know that you put in your notes about do you have concerns about the private equity consolidation and, the barrier to entry of young firm owners?
Yeah, it's going to be hard to really start your own shingle anymore, in my opinion. I probably generate enough business where I probably could, but how many out of 100 lawyers under 35, how many are generating 40 to 50 cases a year without spending money? Probably not very many. And so it's going to be really, really difficult moving forward. My advice to younger lawyers is again, find someone who your core values align with. I think that is extremely, extremely important. And then also develop a skill set. Develop something that differentiates you, that set you apart, that you do as good, if not better, than anyone else, right? Like if you want to be the trial person at your firm for that first 5 years of your practice, do anything you can to get in a courtroom. Read every single book by Keith Mitnick, by Nick Rowley, by all of those people, right? Rules of the Road. That should be the first thing book you read. Study it, breathe it, let everyone know that that's what you're about. Let your owner of the firm know that's what you're about. Let the defense know that's what you're about. Be about it and develop that thing in that first 5 years that's your thing, that's your lane, that sets you apart, and that a firm can't live without, right? And so I think that's the best thing that my advice for someone. I do think you can still go out on your own. I just think it's going to be really hard to scale, because I know I have a little bit of the peek behind how much it costs.
Oh, let me tell you. So we're 100% in agreement. I talked to somebody recently, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll be fine." I said, "Listen, that's fine. Whatever you want to do, that's on you. But just understand, it's not like when I opened up 25 years ago, right? Like you could compete differently at that level nowadays. Between the private equity money, the consolidations going on, the firms are getting bigger, and there's a smaller amount of firms. It's going to be really challenging to build something that's, especially in personal injury, right?
It's going to be hard to decide as a young person on what you do, right? Do you stick with that local firm? Do you go to the national firm that's coming in? Do you, if you build a brand kind of like I have, you have those multiple options. And those are really hard visions for your future on, okay, do I start this firm's deal as the face of it, right? Or do I write in what I'm at? Like there, I think the beautiful thing is that if you position yourself where you have that skill set that everyone wants then you're going to have some options as a young
player. Of course. Listen, you said something earlier, and I don't know if you meant metaphorically or financially. You said something like, I bought in with Monty. Like I was all in, I bought in. I didn't know if you meant metaphorically or financially, but...
Metaphorically.
Okay, but there is something that Harvard is teaching a class now. I was listening to a private equity guy talking this morning, because I'm 57. I'm looking at private equity, and private equity is of interest. But the guy said there's a course being taught at Harvard, entrepreneurship by acquisition. And that really resonated, especially if you're in personal injury with a firm that's growing and you get a big referral fee in. I don't know how old Monty is. I think him and I are pretty close in age. I may be older than him. I don't know.
No, he's actually got 10 years on you. He's 67.
Oh, okay. Well, so think about it from that perspective.
Great.
No, he looks way better than me. New York is hard living. That's why my face looks like this. But entrepreneurship by acquisition is a thing. It's a real thing. You can get lending now that you couldn't get 10, 15 years ago to buy in to an established growing thing. And so to me, if I'm a young firm owner or I have aspirations to do that, to me, I'd rather buy into a machine than hang that shingle with a laptop and try to compete against. Even competing against a firm your size or my size, it's not a pretty competition from that perspective if you're just starting out with a laptop. And the feedback I'm getting in the market now is people like me, what about my brand? I'm like, how long have you been out? My first year. I'm like, do you really have a brand? Like at my age, if I drop dead tomorrow, is my brand going to live on forever? Is somebody going to be able to take my files and do, you know what I mean? Like, there are brand firms like Morgan & Morgan, but if you're not dumping $1 million, $2 million, $100 million into advertising and marketing, I think he spent something like hundreds of millions of dollars in. That's a brand. That's a household name. And so entrepreneurship by acquisition is not talked about enough, but the fact that it's going mainstream, that's a big deal because it also gives options to somebody like me, right? If I want a successor and I say, hey, does Cain Law want a New York office? Let's talk. Right? So there's a lot of that going on right now. There's mergers, there's acquisitions, a lot of partnerships are breaking up. That presents opportunity. But man, you've got a good lead. For somebody 7 years out, you've got a really good lead on what matters, on the market, on the legal trends in markets. So clearly you spend a lot of time studying that stuff, clearly.
Talk about it a lot. And, and again, I've got someone who's investing in me, who's sending me out to these conferences, giving me the resources to learn all this stuff to help, hopefully help him make some decisions on that as the firm grows and we continue to grow. So
listen, and you know what people don't understand? When you've got a firm like his or a firm like mine that for X amount of years, decades, has been doing X growth and X millions and millions of dollars, you don't just show up and go, I've been the best associate ever, I should take over the firm. That's the Bob Cratchit model, right, from A Christmas Carol. There's a check. You bring a check with you to the poker game. You ante up. You say, hey, let's get a valuation done. Law is the only business I know where people don't understand that concept. Like my brother owned a landscaping business. He sold 50% of it, then he sold 100% of it. Every other business understands that. And associates at law firms a lot of times don't understand it. You get a referral fee check, bank that, use the money to grow into something bigger, right? That's the opportunity. Listen, you've been awesome. I'm so glad I had you on. This hour went really fast. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll do some rapid fire really quick. Mitnick's book. But what's one book that if somebody could only choose one book to read, legal or non-legal, what would you say?
Dang. I really like Mike Morse's Fireproof book just because I like the business side of law. So that's one of my absolute favorite reads. Other than that, the Reptile, like their original, I think it was
Keenan Ball, yeah.
Those are some of my favorite reads as well. But yeah, those would be probably my two legal. So.
Awesome. First thing you do in the morning when you start your day?
Oh man, coffee. I go and I go to my Nespresso and get it started, and then I do my routine and walk out the door and grab it on my way. out the door.
Awesome. What's one mistake you see young lawyers making too often?
Not be patient enough. And this is going to be interesting because one of the things that's probably one of my best strengths, but also can be a downfall and rub people the wrong way, is how ambitious I am. And even Monty, I've had that conversation before, like, hey, slow down, all in due time. But as a young lawyer, I mean, you're not going to come in and just immediately get it. You're not going to immediately need to know how to do it. Right. You're going to need to learn from someone, or you're going to commit malpractice. That's just what it boils down to. It's very hard to just come in and do it because they don't teach you how to do that specific type of law, right? They don't teach you the ins and outs of setting up an insurance claim. They don't do those things in law school. And so learn the overall structure of whatever you're doing, right? Whether it be a personal injury case or a contract, whatever, learn what that overall looks like. And then it's just going to be spot picking on specific facts on every case that I've never seen that scenario before. How should I do it? But learn the overall and don't get frustrated when you don't know it in 6 months. Don't get frustrated when it's a year. Trust the process. If you've got, 5, 6, 7 year lawyers in your firm that are making 2, 3, 500K a year or whatever, okay, I may not be making that yet, but I've seen them do it. And if I follow the same playbook, it can happen. So just be patient. I think it'll be the biggest thing, not get frustrated.
I think that's fantastic advice. And I often, I remember having a marketing person here who was very young and very ambitious. I used to have that conversation all the time. Listen, first of all, there's life cycles to careers, right? So right now I'm in my prime earning years. And then as I age out of that, somebody else comes up, right? That's just the cycle of life. And so, everybody gets a seat at the table if you just keep showing up. Just keep showing up and doing the lifting. The table slots open up. Sometimes you open them up. Sometimes people pull the chair out for you. Sometimes people drop dead and their chair falls over and you just slide another chair up, right? There's all different circumstances. But listen, I want to say thank you for coming on. I really enjoyed this. I'm looking forward to connecting with you guys. Thanks again, man. Thanks for coming on.
Dude, thanks for having me. Anytime. I don't know if you ever have recurring, but I'm always down to come on and chat with you. So you just let me know.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. That'd be great. This won't be the last time for sure.
All right. Good deal. Thanks.
All right, man. Thanks, Rilee.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Go anywhere podcasts are distributed. Follow us. Leave us a 10-star review. Share some episodes with your friends. And thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you. This episode is sponsored by Cain Law. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. Cain Law is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. Do you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals? Check out tonalaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you.